Shalom Uvracha. This is Laser Brody from the south of Israel, the Mediterranean coast in Ashdod. And I'm going to tell you a story about the sea cucumber. If you ever heard of sea cucumbers, they grow in the Far East. You could find them in China or in Australia. And they're scavengers, they're bottom feeders. They're from the family of a starfish, but they're long. They look like these long sea caterpillars, and they're fat. They're maybe 10, 30 centimeters long, and they're fat. And the Chinese love them. It's a delicacy. But there's one thing about the sea cucumber. It's a bottom feeder, and it eats all the refuse and garbage, and it feeds off everything, all the refuse in the bottom of the ocean. Okay, and the way it eats, it's built like this. It has a hole in one side and a hole in the other side. The food goes in the mouth and then goes out the other side. This is the whole sea cucumber. It's a body with two holes, a mouth where it eats and on the other side where it excretes. You stop and think about it. Most people in the world, they're like sea cucumbers. They have this basic physical existence, and food goes in one side and goes out the other side, and they work and they bottom feed, they eat whatever they feel like, whatever junk, and not necessarily what's good for body, certainly not what's good for the soul. And stop and think about the difference between somebody who's connected to the Almighty and somebody that's not. Well, if you're not connected to the Almighty and live just this physical existence, no better than a sea cucumber. But for those of us that are connected to the Almighty, we're not sea cucumbers. We just have this body that eats and excretes. We have a soul. And what happens with the soul? What's the difference between a body and a soul and a body that's just like a sea cucumber? Maybe it's just a little more sophisticated human body, but also has one hole at one side where it eats and one hole on the other side where it excretes. The difference between a body and a body with a soul is as soon as a person has a body and a soul, he doesn't just eat and excrete, because he thanks Hashem before he eats, then he thanks Hashem after he eats, and then later he excretes, and then he thanks Hashem after he excretes. Such a person doesn't take anything for granted. Thanks Hashem is all the time connected for Hashem. So what happens is the food he eats is to keep the body healthy, as the body is the housing for the soul. It's not because it's just eating and existing. So when a person doesn't have a connection with the Almighty, he's eating and existing, and he's really on no higher level than a sea cucumber on the bottom of the ocean. And that's kind of just live the life of a scavenger on the bottom of the ocean. Is that all we are? So this is what I tend to think. We have to activate our souls, and activating our souls means with emunah. We believe that Hashem is creator of the world, and Hashem gives us everything, every heartbeat, every breath we take, and we thank Hashem for everything. So we don't just eat. We eat to sustain our soul, because our body has to be healthy body for a healthy soul, and we thank Hashem before we eat, and thank Hashem after we eat, and we thank Hashem after we excrete. And our whole lives is just thanking Hashem, and that's our connection to Hashem, because gratitude makes a beautiful connection. Take care, and God bless.